Hi, I'm Al King. I'm the Global Brand Director for Wargaming.net. We're here in Warsaw for the World of Tanks Esports Grand Final.
So, what role has esports played in connecting and maybe even introducing new fans to World of Tanks over the multiple last years?
A very significant one. We spend a lot of time and money on consumer research so that we're very clear on where we're going to get our business from. It's the first and most important step in marketing. You have to identify, create, and keep your customers. So the identification phase is critical. So we do classic consumer segmentation, and there's three primary groups for us. One is called the middle-aged militaria, the other is called the senior historian, and the other is called the young gunner. Now the young gunner, he's the esports kind of guy. So, and there are loads of them in America, for example. Compared to the other segments, they're younger, they're more social, they're more vocal, they're more aggressive. They like to play competitive sports games. So esports is a strategic way in which we get more young gunners into the World of Tanks community.
I've seen some older guys here at this event. Do you cross over with esports with those other two demographics?
The older guys who tend to come from those other segments I mentioned, they like esports, but not as a participant, but as a viewer. I mean, I'm one of those older guys, yeah. I can't do the stuff that they're doing, but I love to watch it, yeah. It's like, I just saw two games for the latest semi-final, Na'vi versus Wombats and Tanks, yeah. Unbelievable. It's like watching, Premier League football or, baseball and those weird sports you play in America. So, unbelievable skill levels, yeah, which make it a compelling spectacle event. That's what, a compelling spectator event. That's why we're here today, because, they're that good and it means it's fun to watch.
Now, the 7 versus 7 format in esports is different than the core gameplay of World of Tanks. What does that open up in terms of if someone's coming in through esports having a different gameplay experience when they try out the free-to-play game?
So I like to use the rugby analogy. So full rugby is like 15 against 15. You've got lights, mediums, and heavies, specialist roles playing together. Takes a bit of time, but it's tremendous to watch and good fun to play. When you halve that down to 7, you get an accelerated game where it's all about being an all-rounder. It's less important, it's less specialised, it's speeded up, and it allows us to, to basically put on an event like this within the context of 2 days. The full game would take too long, and so the 7 against 7 accelerates it, and it also leads to more sort of spectacular athletic, moments. Like we've introduced new physics into the game, which benefits the main game, but specifically esports. So the guys can use the new physics to pull off very spectacular moves. So that's when you get these wow moments in the game when the crowd literally goes wow or just cheers, if it's a kill. So tremendously important for the esports format.
When it comes to those older two demographics you just mentioned, talk about what role virtual reality has played. You guys have experimented with 360-degree video going into history, World War II history, and how you see that connecting with that audience.
Okay, so VR at the moment, we're purely using it for sort of promotional purposes. It just allows people to be a little bit more immersed in the experience, whether that's at the Tank Museum in Bovington and we're trying to immerse you in history, or today when we're trying to immerse you more into the actual esports event. The promise of virtual reality, is on the horizon now. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. But until a significant consumer electronics brand like Sony, for example, can get, sort of high street distribution for a headset that's like sub $200, you're not going to get any serious consumer take-up. So we can wait for that hardware battle to be resolved until we actually say, okay, we're now going to bring VR technology into the actual World of Tanks game for the normal consumer. So that'll be 2 to 3 years off, we think.
But the way you're doing it now, I mean, I'm assuming that's connecting directly with those two other segments, the older segments you were talking about?
I'm not sure if it has a segment-specific appeal. Normally new tech tends to be the younger early adopters. So if anything, it's probably the young gunners that'll be more into that. But yeah, I've seen some of the older dudes checking it out. I mean, when I put it on, I got a bit of a headache after 5 minutes. So I kind of took it off and went for a shot of vodka to get me on the level again. So I'm not sure if VR has a segment-specific appeal. I just think it's new tech, which everyone's going to check out at some point, sooner or later.
How do you appeal then to those historian and older demos?
Great question. My kind of sweet spot. So the middle-aged militaria, quite a simple animal. His motivation is hardware. He likes the guns, the gadgets, yeah. So we just do classic tank porn. Show a load of tanks with big barrels firing shells, yeah. He loves that stuff, yeah. Senior historian, very different beast. Lovely, lovely individual. You know, a learned individual who reads books, much more interested in strategy and history. So instead of tank porn and loud bangs, we might show, say, a top-down view of the Prokhorovka map and say, dawn, July 1943, the Battle of Kursk is about to happen. You know, different tank divisions are lining up. You know, one of them is planning a pincer movement. We might show arrows moving around on the page. You know, lots of long, well-written copy that brings to life the history in a very appealing, sober way. So, it's a different spin on the same game. We just emphasise different features and use different language and a different tone.
What's the challenge of getting these 3 different demographics to actually invest and spend money on a game that's free to play?
Once me, marketing, branding, publishing have got them in, you know, that's when the game itself takes over. So that's all the guys in Minsk who are working on World of Tanks, you know, they've been fine-tuning and polishing this game over the last 5 years. The game works, you know, we knew that very early on because we released it and we started to get people in massive numbers and they stayed and they started to monetize. So that's down to like managing them through the funnel, showing them a tutorial, squirting them an email to say, looks like you're a bit crap on light tanks, maybe you should spend some time, you know, in that area. You seem to really like the heavies, why don't you think about some premium ammo? So using good data in a data-rich environment and, you know, using your CRM and approaching people at the right time with the right message, managing people through the journey. And it's different, you know, people need different support, different information in order to get good. And we know how to do that, and most of the leading online game companies do. It's kind of essential to survival.
How have you seen the audience expand with the original PC game to the Xbox One, to the PS4, and now to the mobile?
Okay, so historically, when we were kind of like PC and CIS biased, all the community were those first 2 segments, the middle-aged militaria and the senior historians. So they were older, and their primary interest was the military side of things. Once we moved west and we moved on to console, we got loads of young gunners in, yeah? So these are the younger, more mainstream, social, kind of aggressive gamers. That was the first significant shift. And now we've found there's a 4th segment that's becoming strategically more important to us that we call the social senior. So these are kind of like cash-rich, time-poor, white-collar professionals. The competition there is not, you know, other games, it's other entertainment formats like film, home entertainment, even going out to restaurants, casinos, you know, that kind of stuff. So it's almost a 2-step process. We have to like sell tanks and remind them that tanks exist and that they're cool. And that's why when Hollywood makes films like Fury, we go, yes, because it immediately makes tanks relevant and cool again. Once we've got them interested, then we start, you know, approaching them through, you know, more traditional media. These guys are tough to reach. They watch expensive kind of like post-prime time stuff. They watch a lot of news and documentary. And so we have to target them through that using really nice polished TV ads. But when we get them in game, they love to spend money. It's like, you know, out comes the wallet, premium garage, premium ammo, loads of customized camo and insignia. Great audience to have. Difficult to get, but once they're in, they stick and they monetize well.
You guys do a lot of your own documentaries and other short format type stuff. Was that for that audience, or was that outside of that audience?
The kind of stuff, the kind of content we create tends to be very tank oriented. You know, we'll be focusing on specific maps, specific tanks. So it's more with that militaria audience in mind, the middle-aged militaria and the senior historian. For the young gunners, you know, it's like streaming through Twitch and showing how fun, you know, the game can be with, you know, these incredible cyber athletes. So the content we create is for the more traditional segments, but we should probably evolve that and start making more mainstream content for these new segments, definitely.
Have you seen crossover as you guys have launched World of Warships and World of Warplanes from tanks to those?
Not as much as we would like. We haven't done. The way we've been set up historically is that we've had 3 separate studios, one making tanks, one making ships, one making planes, and we've largely kept our community separate. You know, there's a World of Tanks community guy, and he's very protective about his community, and he doesn't want to let them all go over to the warships guys. There's a little bit of competition, but what we're beginning to realise now, based on research and feedback, is that these middle-aged militarians, for example, that I've talked about, They may have a slight preference towards tanks, particularly if they're from tank-heavy countries like CIS, but they are also interested in the other military hardware. It goes beyond just that one vehicle. So we are now realising that we can legitimately, without upsetting people, cross-promote tanks to the ships and the planes guys, and we can sell planes to the tanks and the ships guys. And we're at the beginning in that journey, and we're going to get better and better at that. And with our new global head of CRM, we know exactly when to do it and how to do it without pissing them off. So that's kind of the trick,